Hey there guys, and welcome back to my channel. Behold, for in this video I'm going to divulge the mistakes I made when I introduced solids to my baby. So if you're ready, let's get started. So as a new mother, we get tons of advice, right? Do this, do that. Even though we mothers learn our ways and do things, we tend to make mistakes because to err is human. Well, now this is not a philosophy class, so I better get on with the mistakes that I made when I introduced solids to my baby. Now this happened with my first baby. With the second one, I was quite cautious and I had learned more. So let's get started with my first mistake. My mistake number one was the misconception that I had in my head that from now on out, it's the solids that's gonna be the main source of my baby's food. So you can safely call it a mistake because the formula milk or the breast milk that you're feeding the baby remains as their main source of milk till 1 year of age. And the empty pockets of time that you find in between is when you introduce solid food after they turn 6 months of age. It's actually only to make them familiar with newer flavors, newer textures, and newer foods, right? It's to build their palate. What I did was I was very enthusiastic about the weaning phase. I got a little, concerned about the solid diet as well as the milk. So I was trying to balance it out, but it's like a transitioning phase. They move from little quantity to a little more, towards the end by the time they reach 12 months of age.
So again, the key is remembering that it will be gradual. Start out small and slow, and then slowly add in meals and amounts. Now, you also need to remember that a baby's primary form of nutrition and hydration is going to be breast milk and or formula until they're well established on solid food.
So if you're at the junction where you are about to start weaning to your baby, then learn from my mistake and make sure that you do not deprive your baby of lots of milk, because milk is still going to be their main source of food. The second mistake on my list is not quintessentially my own. It's not basically a mistake though, it is only a question that arises in our heads when to start solid foods, right? I mean, some might start a little early on, some might just wait a little too long to start. Now, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, it's best to wean your baby off from 4 to 6 months of age. Most of them recommend to, wait till they turn 6 months or maybe 5.5 months or so. So I'll tell you exactly what happens when you start early on. Might lead to an extra baby weight gain. It can also, trigger an onset of diarrhea. Maybe like their system is not really ready for the solid foods and we are like hurrying. So it's better to wait till they turn 6 months of age. Now, the other thing that happens is sometimes you tend to think, okay, our baby is pretty good at having, milk, so why should we hurry? Milk is anyway the main source of food, so, let it just have milk. And you might just wait for 7 months even before you get started with the solids. Delaying bringing solids into their diet even has a, negative repercussion, and that is the babies, they show troubles, accepting more food later. Now, one thing that happened with me was I kind of got stuck into the pureed food phase where 6 months, 7 months, I kind of got stuck into that phase for a little longer than I should have, and that became a huge problem for me. Now, he wanted to have soft and mushy food till he was about 2 years old, and he wouldn't want any textured foods like nuts. He wouldn't even have fried chicken or fried mutton, these kind of things which are really delicious, but he just wouldn't have it. He wasn't ready to grab onto those textures because I got stuck with the soft food phase. So please don't do that. Know when to start your solids and know when to transition with your solids from soft solids to a more coarser and textured solids. Because according to a study, if you do not introduce textured foods and more coarser foods to the baby, lumpier foods is the word actually, to the baby by the age of 9 months, then they show more, intolerance towards more textured foods when they're 7 years of age. Now that's a crazy study, right? I mean, which is true. I can totally vouch for this because my son is 7.5 years old, and he gives me a hard time, and we still are dealing with his intolerance to newer foods and newer textures. He still, is the picky one. So yeah, learn from my mistake and act wisely. And now let's proceed to my mistake number 3, which is a pretty crucial one to me. And that is not involving babies at family meal time. Are you guys familiar to this? Tell me you guys relate to this, because I have seen many moms do this, okay? Many Desi moms. We kind of get done with the baby's meal before the family meal time so that, we're done with our responsibility and we can enjoy our family dinner as well. Even though it might seem really convenient to do so, but what happens is the babies, they learn to eat by watching us eat. And after seeing my baby's, extreme intolerance to, newer foods, newer textures, I mean, he wouldn't have something as simple as, cucumber, carrots, and tomatoes. These these kind of salad items too. And after learning this lesson, I put it to experiment, and I got my second child, that is my baby girl, to the table right from the start. I mean, we would have her in a high chair next to us or in her father's lap, and she would watch us eat. And that's how she got tempted to eat different things. Like she would ask for a popper, or she would want cucumbers. Okay, you wouldn't believe what she's asked us from the table. When she was barely even 9 months old, she wanted to eat a slice of onion from the salad plate. I wouldn't even think of giving that to a kid on my own. When you bring the kids to the table, they see you, they would want to eat an olive, or she wouldn't even mind eating lettuce. So they learn to eat more when they watch us eat. So this was a simple example of my two children, how their eating habits develop. It's a big contrast. So this is a mistake you don't want to make. Now let's proceed to my mistake number 4, shall we? Seriously guys, I'm doing some kind of a, what do you call this? I'm doing social service by telling you my mistake. So you better subscribe and hit that like button, because you're going to benefit from this. Are you ready for my 4th mistake? So my mistake number 4 is I introduced Tetra Pak milk to my baby as soon as he turned 12 months of age. I see this question being asked on Facebook quite many times that, can I use milk, can I use Saudi milk, or can I use Almarai milk for my baby? He has turned 1 year. Seriously, I'm telling you guys, I was naive. I made this mistake without consulting with my child's pediatrician. But do not do this, because it is so important that your baby is only given either mother's milk that you're feeding, or keep your baby to formula milk if it's an external source of milk that he has, because this milk is fortified with iron. And switching to the milk from the Tetra Pak makes a huge difference, as it is not fortified with iron. This might lead to iron deficiency.
It's very important to increase your child's diet, supplement with iron-rich foods, things like meat, poultry, fish, beans, and other iron-fortified foods. That is one of the problems with cow's milk versus breast milk or formula. It has less iron in it, and so you need to beef up the content in other foods that they eat.
This happened to us. I read it in an article that giving cow's milk to the baby can lead to iron deficiency. I literally ran to the doctor asking that, is it possible that it has happened, because I have stopped giving formula milk right after he turned 1, because at that time I was in India and I gave Nestle milk, and we found out that indeed he was deficient in iron. This happens because we mothers, we don't essentially concentrate on the iron rich component of the food. Sometimes we might not give them green leafy vegetables because they wouldn't have it at that age. So you either give them iron rich food, if you're giving them other milk, or you make sure you keep them on formula milk till they turn 2 years old. So that's a mistake I made. So learn from my mistake and don't do this. My mistake number 5 is not essentially the mistake I made, but I've seen many mothers around me do this, and that is giving into your child's desire of having chocolates and sweets and junk food that they love, that they eventually develop a habit of, right? I mean, we don't want them to have these bad habits. We are kind of developing the palate for it, and then later on we're like, nahi khana hai, de do. And I, for one, wasn't into junk or anything, but my mistake was that I gave my girl a sip of, are you ready for this? Soda. I was so tempted to see what her reaction would be to that fizzy drink, and that was the pathetic and the most worst mistake I did. Even though I do tell her now that it's medicine and it's not supposed to be taken, it's actually a sin we are committing in front of them, and we are asking them not to commit that sin. It's that hypocritical. Our own act will hamper our desire to cultivate better and healthier eating habits in our children. If you don't want them to have those habits, don't introduce it to them, because this definitely will influence their future food preference. Well, no blame game here, just saying don't do it. Now, mistake number 6, and that is giving my baby food that didn't taste as great as I would prefer it. That is bland food. My pediatrician told me no salt for the baby till they turn 1, and I took it like too seriously and didn't give him salt at all in those initial months, and kind of gave him bland food, only like boiled and steamed foods and stuff. And I was really particular about this. I thought, I'm doing a pretty great job, but then turns out it doesn't have to be that serious. Okay, I'll tell you what you can do. Bring flavor to the food by adding aromatic spices. And also, my pediatrician over here in Saudi Arabia told me, a little bit of sprinkle here and there of salt is okay. Just to, make it a little, you get my point, right? Because my doctor, she told me, your son wouldn't have it if you wouldn't have it. I made my son a picky eater myself, and I have no one to blame but myself. I was extra too cautious, and I didn't play around with flavors with him. So it would have made a difference. And so learn from my mistake and bring more flavorful and tastier food to your baby's plate. Mistake number 7 is giving a mobile phone with food. Back in 2014, these baby channels were only picking up on YouTube. We didn't know what repercussions it was holding for us in the future. And obviously, I started showing the rhymes to my baby when I was feeding him. Then I realized slowly it became I didn't let it become an addiction, but it became a habit. Let's just face it did become a habit. He wouldn't have it without the phone most of the times, or sometimes I would really have to engage him in other activities when when I was outside or when I didn't have access to internet. So if you're a mother out there who's at the junction of having a baby at 6 months of age and you're like introducing foods now, if you want her to focus on the food that you're giving, don't ever try to gain their attention with a rhyme, because once done, there's no turning back. So better to avoid as much as you can. I mean, if you can do it for like another 6 months, hold up for another 6 months. If you can do it till 2 years of age, it's best that you can at least do it for 2 years of age. I mean, I can give you a live example. It's not so impossible to do. I mean, my cousin sister, she's had her first child, and seeing other children around, she's like, I'm never going to give her the phone. And all of us thought eventually she might. It's not really a doable thing, but she did. And even today, her daughter is 3 years old, and mashallah, she is not allowed screen time because she says it's not necessary at this time, and when it will be necessary, she will be given a phone. Not as yet. So I think it's pretty doable. I mean, there are certain parents who are able to do it, so I guess we also can. So it's all about the initiatives. That's it, guys. If you found this video interesting, or you learned anything new from this, or a new mother who can, then please do share this video as much as you can, and do give it a like if you liked it. Also share it, and also subscribe to my channel for more such videos. Thank you so much for watching. I wish to see you again. I hope you stay safe. Bye.